Hello, welcome to Talking Good Games, quarter-final of the Euro 20 between England and Ukraine. Before we get into England's opposition, Gonzo, what's your favourite football app?
Oh, Geo, I love the One Football app. I've tried other apps. I've tried the Two Football app. I've tasted the Three Football app. And quite frankly, they're bland and disgusting. Nothing quite hits the spot like the One Football app where you can tailor it to your own specifications. You can chop out Tottenham from the app. You can chop out Scotland from the app, which I know you like to do, to stop yourself feeling bad. So for me, I tailor it to myself. I only have West Ham and England news. It's wonderful. It's a brilliant app. Even when they're not sponsoring Hammers Chat, we still use it. We use it for all our pre-match build-ups. I'm not just saying it. The One Football app, it's much better than the Two Football app.
And it's completely free. The link is in the description below and the pinned comment of this video. So get it downloaded today. And like Gonzo, keep up to date with all your latest England news. So who's fit, who's available, who's suspended, if anyone. And keep up to date with all your West Ham news, such as who we're going after and who's rejecting contracts. Anyway, link is in the description below. But let's talk about your opponents, Gonzo, Ukraine, or let's not talk about them. But what do you know about them?
Oh, they've got a yellow kit, which is nice. Very confusing when they play Sweden, I've got to say. Who's who, I'm thinking, on that. They've got Andre Yamalenko, who we know because he is a brilliant international footballer who also plays his club football for West Ham. And when he's available and fit, he plays very well for West Ham too. They've got Zinchenko, who plays for Manchester City, who's one of Manchester City's lesser fullbacks, but still a very good player, certainly. And they actually had a striker. What's his name? Yaremchuk. Is that his name?
Yaremchuk,
yeah. Who we were linked with, and I had a little look at him, and he looks decent. Don't get me wrong. I just didn't fancy him for West Ham. Geo, this is a club. This is a team that are better than the sum of their parts. They do have some technical ability in the team, don't get me wrong. But they have an absolute Ukrainian legend in Andrei Shevchenko as the manager. I guess he's the only show in town for that, an international superstar. I think they've done really well to get as far as they have, but let's be fair, they relied on a sort of last gasp goal in extra time. They looked a tired and fatigued team, Geo, at the end of the last game. Put it that way.
Yeah, I think they've done well to get this far as well. You look at the group stages game, and it's funny because they were inconsistent almost during the game. For an hour of the game, they'd be pretty poor, pinned back, struggled to get out of the half. But for half an hour, when they did get out of the half, they actually played some good football, created enough chances, and did enough to get enough points to get out of the group. And it was similar against Sweden. I thought Sweden were actually a better team over the 120 minutes. I thought Sweden dominated them. Red card obviously changed the game and swung in Ukraine's favour. But prior to that, again, it was just one of those where they were soaking up the pressure, and they were almost fortunate to soak up the pressure because I thought at the time Sweden looked like they were going to get the goal that would take them through. So I've watched a bit of Ukraine during the Euros, and I've been sort of not bothered by them. They haven't impressed me, but they haven't unimpressed me, if you like. I'm being very neutral to how they play. Their right centre-back, though, I wrote his name down. Zabarny, I think his name was. He looks good, and he's only 18 years old, but he's got quite a lot of club experience as well. Dynamo Zagreb, he played in the Champions League last season as well. So he's someone to keep an eye on. We haven't been linked with him with that, but he just stood out a little bit for me. Obviously, like you said, Yaremchuk, and they had that. They switched formation in the last game. They've been playing sort of like a 4-3-3, but against Sweden, they switched to like a 3-5-2 for some reason. It worked. Obviously, put Yamalenko up front rather than on the right. But that partnership between Yamalenko and Yaremchuk has actually probably been one of the better partnerships during the Euros. Despite me talking down the team, I think them two have impressed, and obviously Zinchenko as well. What do you make of Andre Yarmolenko, though, for Ukraine? Though I know you said when he's fit, he's a good player for West Ham, but he's a different beast for Ukraine, isn't he? He is arguably one of the better players at the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very proud nation. I that gives every other nation damns them with faint praise. But without getting too political, there's a certain situation in that particular country with regard to their neighbours at the moment, which I do think builds a siege mentality, which I do think whips up a sort of national fervour, which they're very, very proud. And I think it's not the first time that we've seen that, by the way. You've seen it in international football quite a lot in the past when players go back to their countries, that they really do play for the flag. They play for their countrymen. I think there's a lot of that going on. And I think with someone like Yamalenko, when you've got that technical ability, and then you're going to put that with a drive and a will to win, and a desire to represent your country. I'm not slagging him off for West Ham. You can't match that. You know, you can't. He's not going to have that sense, that depth of feeling. You know, he's doing it for his countrymen. He's doing it for his grandmother. It's just all of that stuff goes into it. And I think you've got a highly motivated, skillful player, and I think that plays a lot into it. And he can be the main man there. We can't do that. He can't be the main man at West Ham. He just can't. He's got to be a right winger, and possibly not even the first choice right winger. Very different to his standing as a second joint record, or whatever, second record goal scorer for the Ukraine. It's a different beast.
Yeah, I think his goal against the Netherlands was unbelievable, but his assist against Sweden as well was some technique, and often it's like a disadvantage to be so one-footed. But I think when your strong foot is as good as Yamalenko's, it's not really a bad thing. It's like Mo Salah at Liverpool. He's very one-footed, but it's all right because he's good enough to go past you. He's good enough to create space on his left foot. And then if you push him on the right, he just uses his left foot anyway. And Yamalenko's a bit like that with Sweden. The defender did everything right, showed him onto his right foot, but then he thought, I'll just use it outside my left then and whip it round you. Beautiful assist. I was probably more impressed by the assist than his goal, despite it being like a 25-yard screamer. I think for Ukraine, he's got less responsibilities. He doesn't have to defend as much. They sort of create the team. It's probably why they converted to 3 at the back in Sweden, to keep Yamalenko in the final third a bit. Because when they play 4-3-3, he's got to do some tracking back, particularly when Sweden have that left back, Augustin or whatever he's called, who's a very attacking left back. So it was a case of either Yarmolenko's going to have to do a lot of tracking, or we need to free him up. And I think the option was, we'll free him up, we'll stick him up front, and then so on and so forth. But with West Ham, he's obviously got to do the creating and the goal scoring. He's also got to do a lot more running around. I don't think it suits his game. The way the Ukraine do suits his game. And you get to see the best of him. And he's been a joy to watch at times. I don't think he's always been their best player, despite him getting the goals and stuff. And from, if you look at the stats and the score sheet, he probably looks like their main player. There's been others in the team that I think have been burning him for 90 minutes, Zinchenko, for example. But when he's on the ball, he really is a superb player to watch. But anyway, enough about Ukraine. If you tune in for the Ukraine chat, apologies, we don't know too much about them. We only need to know 3 or 4 of their players, and that is it. But England, we know all about them. So Southgate switches 3 at the back against Germany as expected. It worked.
Yes.
But I take it you're going to want to see him switch it back to 4 and get on the front foot a bit more for this one.
Yeah, yes, please. Yeah, exactly that, Geo. This is not a team on the ropes. It's a tired team. We'd already had more rest than them because ours was the earlier game. I know it ain't much, but actually when you're dealing in a 3 or 4 day turnaround, actually we're playing in the afternoon or the night time, it's going to make a difference because...
And you didn't have to travel. Well, you both have to travel, but you were in London, weren't you? Ukraine weren't in Ukraine.
No, that's a great point. That's absolutely and that's a great point. So by the time we'd finished the game, you know, half hour later, they were all in the ice bath or having their what's-its rubbed or whatever, you know, whatever goes on after the game. So you just not afforded that when the game finishes at 10 o'clock at night or whatever. Sorry, what was your question?
Back 4.
Back 4, absolutely. 100%. Yes. Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah. How would you like to line up?
Okay, I'm going to go against my better judgment. I'm going to go with Carl Walker as the right back. I think. I'm subject to change, but I think he sort of deserves it. But I want to see a bit more from Walker when he's there. I thought he was fine in that 3, by the way. I think it sort of works for him as well. I think Guardiola would agree on that as well. So I'm going to go him as the right back, and obviously the rest picks itself. It's Stones, Maguire, and Shaw. Obviously Pickford's at the back. So I think that probably most pick was back 4, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think it has to go back to a back four because it was working. He didn't change because the back four wasn't working. It was fine. It's just like we set up with a three to counteract Germany. It worked. Job done. You move on to the next game, which is go back to the back four because we are now the better team. We don't have to worry about what. Well, you do have to worry to some extent what Ukraine's got, but I think you play your best team, and I think the best team for England is with a back four. I think I'd agree with yours, really. Kyle Walker, maybe Kieran Trippier, because I think he didn't do anything wrong against Germany, kept Goossens quiet, but also I think his set-piece deliveries are fantastic. I really do think Kieran Trippier is the best set-piece taker at the minute. So I would probably go with Trippier right back, but I could understand if Southgate went Kyle Walker. It's one of those 50-50s for me. You can't really get the wrong choice there. Now, this is where moving into midfield gets a bit tricky because this is the last game where you can pick up a yellow card and get suspended for the semi-final. So if you get 2 bookings in the Euro 20, you miss a game. England have got 4 players on 1 yellow card, and this is the last game where you can get booked. Essentially, after the quarterfinals, yellow cards are wiped. The only way you can miss the finals by getting sent off in the semi-final. So England's 4 players on the yellow card currently are Harry Maguire, Calvin Phillips, Declan Rice, and Phil Foden. Do you take this into consideration, Gonzo, when selecting your centre mid against a bit harsh, but on paper, a lesser opponent, or are you sticking with Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips in there?
Well, I'm not, but not because the cards have got anything to do with it. Quite frankly, this is a dangerous game. It winds me up actually during the season when players in interviews say, "Oh, we're looking no further than the next game." It winds me up when they say that, but let's look no further than the next game because you tweak too much stuff and you might not find yourself in the semi-finals. Let's put it that way. So let's get through this game. Let's try and win this game. And then if somebody has picked up a yellow card, then we'll deal with it. All right. Because it will be someone to miss out on a semi-final. Not great, but we do have cover. In fact, look, you can't not play Maguire, right? You have to play Maguire. He's the only one that's sort of a little bit irreplaceable. But I'd also suggest Mings was all right there. But I keep Maguire in. If Maguire picks up a yellow card, naughty boy, Mings will have to go in. But you know what? Let's get through this. The others, they're all replaceable. Is there a like-for-like replacement for Foden? Yes. Is there a like-for-like replacement for Rice? Yes. I think playing both of them is the dodgy one. Because what you don't want is Rice and Phillips getting a card. And that's why. Well, that's not why. I'd forgotten about the cards, but one of those has dropped from my team anyway.
Who have you dropped then?
I've dropped Calvin Phillips.
And who would you bring in? Mason
Mount for this one to play alongside his buddy and future club teammate.
Oh, you are naughty. I would stick with Rice and Phillips. I get why some people would be tempted to change it, but I think their partnership is strong, really strong. I think the Italian centre midfield is the only one I would compare to the English centre midfield in terms of how they perform so far. Saying that, Souček and Holes, is that how you pronounce his name? It's spelled Holes. They're looking good for the Czech Republic. But even Belgium, even with Tielemans and Witsel in there, I think there's a bit of weakness in that team. But with Phillips and Rice, I don't sense that. I would keep them in there and continue. Obviously, like you said, one of them gets booked, they're missing the semi, then you might make the sub and get the other one off. It's a case of, right, we're not risking you, off you come kind of thing. But Rice and Phillips, Rice in particular, played 80 minutes against Germany on a yellow card. They've shown they can be disciplined. They've shown they can remain composed, so on and so forth. And it's a squad game. If they get booked and have to miss the semi-final, so be it. They've done their part. And they just have to perform so well in the quarterfinal that actually to get back in for the finals, that you will miss the semi, but your place is okay. You're going into the final squad. So Harry Kane up front, inevitably. And who would you like in behind them? You've got 3 players there. What's your 3?
I'll go with Sterling, Grealish, and Foden. And this is not going to be the same. They're not going to come at us with reckless abandon like Germany. It actually wasn't reckless. They didn't commit that many men forward, but there was space against Germany because they're Germany. They got the swagger. They puffed their chest out. Not going to sit and make a 10-man wall for the game. Ukraine might do a bit of that. So actually it's not all about. So I don't feel you need the two guys to run in behind. So what you're going to need a bit of, and this is what I want to see. I want to see these guys close together. So not Sterling. I don't want him to see close. I want him to do what he's been doing. But I want to see Mount getting forward, and I want to see some combinations with Foden, Grealish, and Mount. And also, was it Sterling's headed goal at the back post? Was it the first goal he scored? Was that set up by Grealish? Which one was at the back post where he scored?
That was. You're right. It was Grealish that chipped it to Sterling, but that was in the third group game against Czech Republic.
Okay, right. So we've actually seen already 2 goals have come from Grealish that are the type of positions that Kane would like to score from. Right now, one of them was scored by Kane, the other one was scored by Sterling, but as I said at the time, if Kane had been there, he'd have been having a bit of that. So actually, this is the first inkling we've got to unlock Kane. Is actually Grealish needs to be on it, because he's already shown that he will put across the service that Harry Kane likes. And we've seen with the Shaw assist as well for Sterling. Again, it was Sterling that tapped it in, but it's the sort of danger areas. I'm looking at those, and again, actually, when we get it into those striker area, fox in the box type areas, we want to really sort of pursue this combination there. So yeah, so I've gone with that basically.
I agree with Sterling. I think he picks himself, because at the end of the day, games are won on big moments sometimes, and Sterling's producing them. I don't think he's your best performer over 90 minutes. I think you've got quite a few best performers over 90 minutes compared to, I think Sterling, out your starting 11, I think Sterling's near the bottom. But he's the one that's popping up, scoring the goals. He's dragging defences left, right and centre. And he deserves to stay in there. Sterling just has to remain in the team as far as I'm concerned. Grealish, for the reasons you've said, he's the best player. And also, Grealish sometimes you can sometimes struggle as an impact player. This is why I don't like England using him. I know it's worked, he's come on and he's done well. But I often find with Villa, sometimes it takes a while to get going some games. Some games he spends 15 minutes where he's not really in the game. All of a sudden, once he's got into the game, he's got a feel of it or whatever, he comes alive a bit. And I think sometimes there is players that need a little bit of time in order to get going in the game. I think Grealish sometimes can be that kind of player. And that's why when you keep bringing him on, I think you're going to give him 20 minutes. It's not long enough for him to get involved kind of thing. So he's got to start for the reasons you've said. But I'd also play Saka. I think he was good against Germany. But what I liked about him, he was shooting. Him and Sterling were quite keen to get the ball, cut inside and have a shot. And I thought that against Ukraine, for the reason you've said, Ukraine will sit back. Against Sweden, they played 5 defenders. Their wing-backs were pinned back for large periods of time, because Sweden got their full-backs right up the pitch and it just pinned them right back. And that's what England's got to do. They've got to get Shaw and the right back right up, providing them with forcing Zinchenko and the right wing-back back. And then that allows Saka and Sterling to cut in. And you're going to have to shoot from 25 yards against Ukraine. You're going to have to do it. You can't keep doing what England were doing, and it worked against Germany, but it didn't work against Scotland. It only just worked against Croatia, and it worked against Czech Republic. But I'll be honest, I've never seen that game because Scotland was playing at the same time. You can't just pass. I've seen the stats of all the remaining 8 teams left in the Euros for everything. So top for goals conceded, Switzerland. Top for bookings, Switzerland. But bottom for shots on target, England. Bottom for shots, England. And I just thought that's not a good thing. It's okay because you're through. It's fine. It's worked. But I think sometimes you've almost got to play a law of averages, and you've got to test the goalkeeper a little bit more than you've done so far this tournament. And Saka was willing to cut in and have a shot. And for that reason, I think he's got to stay in there. I think he's looked better than Phil Foden has. Phil Foden's probably been one of the most disappointing players at the tournament for me. Is this team set up to get the best of him? No, he's not playing in his correct position. For City, he plays on the left predominantly. He's been playing on the right for England, but I've not been impressed. Now, as for the game, Gonzo, on paper, it's easier. It's probably your easiest opponent along with Scotland so far. Yeah. I think Croatia and Czech Republic are a bit better than them, and then obviously Germany is better than the rest of them. However, Scotland was the one game you never scored. Scotland's the game that you didn't win. So does this make it easier on paper, but arguably more difficult on the pitch?
Oh, this is a tough game. This is a tough game. It's no England have not. Look, it's great, and there was a lot of jubilation after the Germany win. That's a good win, particularly given the context of tournament football against a team we've got a massive history against who have got really good players. I don't care what anyone says. They've got some really good, they've got some 80. They've got two or three, at least 2 or 3 players in there. Most of the team would go for between 50 and 80 million pound in that team. So let's get that right about Germany. That being said, I don't feel that we've looked convincing, and because of that, this is going to be a tougher game. And if they decide to sit back and try and frustrate us, I think they are going to be able to do that for a good hour of that game. So I don't think it's going to be easy, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think because the opponent's got easier, I think the game's got harder. Actually, I think Germany suited you more. A team that's going to come out and play football against you, I think that suits England more. The team that sits back says what you got. Because and the reason I say that is because I'll be surprised if Grealish does start. I still think he will not start Jack Grealish. He may do. I think it'll be Mason Mount that comes in for one of your defenders, and that'll be the starting 11. And for that reason, I think it gets harder. I think Ukraine will sit back in a defensive 5. They will play 2 strikers, and Yamalenko, Chuck, and try and go long and a bit direct with you. And I think that'll sort of trouble England a little bit. Plus, this is the first game away from Wembley. And I don't care what anyone says. I don't buy into, for what it's worth, I don't buy into what Chris Gunter said, the Wales player saying about how Wales had a disadvantage of playing away from home in all 3 games in the group, blah, blah, blah. Okay, it's true, but so's Czech Republic. Czech Republic have hardly had a home game, have they? And they're in the quarterfinals, so on and so forth. So don't blame that. But Wembley was massive against Germany. That place was rocking. That was one of the best atmospheres I've ever heard on the television. So that place was rocking. So I do think it'd be interesting to see how England get on with no fans there. It's the first game away. And I think it will get a little bit tougher. Also, this might be me being a bit sort of cynical or conspiracy, if you like, but the officials are a team of Germans. I don't know how they've managed that. I mean, it's not the most reassuring thing for an England perspective. But are you confident?
Reasonably, I've got to say reasonably, but I'm not 4-0 thrashing confident. I am confident we'll come through and win the game, but I am also quite confident it ain't going to be pretty. But an early goal sorts this out. So that would be my message. It won't be Southgate's message, but that would be mine. Everything, we get an early goal, everything goes out the window. Every Ukrainian player, and we do that, then it's going to open up. They have to come out for us. They're going to have to run more. It's going to be, you get an early goal, you win that game handsomely. 0-0 after 60 minutes. I still think we can do something, but then it is a different kettle of fish, really. But I'm confident we'll prevail in the end. Let's put it that way.
This is probably the most confident I've been of an England win, to be honest with you. I don't know why. I was reasonably confident you'd beat Germany. I'm very confident you'll beat Ukraine. From what I've seen from Ukraine, they're not that good. If you stop the supply to Yamalenko, you'd probably stop 75% of their attacks. Saying that, Zinchenko coming down the left is something will be a bit problematic. I think when you play the centre midfield for Ukraine, I don't think he's as influential. I think he's better in the left wing back role because he gets more space. So for that reason, he could cause a little bit of trouble down there. But you've got far better players. You just said Germany's players are all 50, 80 million. I don't think there's one Ukrainian worth 50 million.
Okay.
You could argue Zinchenko. I'm not even sure he is worth that much.
Yeah,
but that's not always how football pans out. We've seen other teams going out and France the big one and stuff. But I just don't see Ukraine having enough to stop you or hurt you, to be honest with you. They've got moments of brilliance in them. That's almost what they're relying on. They're almost relying on a killer pass from Yarmolenko or him to hit it from 30 yards and stuff. And you can't do that. You can't base your team strategy around that kind of thing. So I'm very confident England will be sailing through this actually into the semi-final. So with all that said and done, any final words? And your score prediction, please, Gonzo.
No, I think I covered all the final words. Early goal would be nice. Just take one of those defensive players out, be it a defender or a midfielder, just get another attacking player in there. And prepare for all eventualities. That being said, Southgate knows more than I do, clearly, because he's getting it right, and I didn't particularly like his team for the last game. You know, I thought Grealish meant actually maybe I was right because Grealish did need to come onto the pitch before we did anything. That being said, I think it'll be 2-0. I think 2-0 England.
Yeah, I'm reasonably confident that you'll win this one without too much hassle, to be honest with you. Southgate's not there to entertain. He's there to win games, and you're winning games. And while I said about how England are bottom for shots on target, etc., they're also bottom for goals conceded, 0 at the tournament so far. I don't see Ukraine scoring in this one either. So I'm going to say England 3, Ukraine 0. I think it's going to be a comfortable win for you actually on Saturday. But anyway, if you enjoyed this preview, drop a like, comment, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Myself and Gonzo. We'll catch you in a bit. Happy day.